Joseph Joe Beck DiPalermo was born in 1907. His aliases were Joe Becky and Joe Palmer. He was born, raised, and operated all his life from his base in the Little Italy section of Manhattan at 246 Elizabeth Street. He later moved to the 4th Ward to the Monroe Houses at 80 North Moore Street, a mob stronghold. DiPalermo was one of 5 brothers, all formally inducted into the Gagliano Lucchese family of La Cosa Nostra. Joe allegedly rose to Capo di Decina status by the late 1940s and headed the clan. His brothers Anthony, Steve, Peter, and Charles, also known as the Beck brothers, operated within his crew. Joe Beck DiPalermo is arguably one of the most significant members in the history of the Lucchese family and considered the dean of dope dealers nationwide. He was one of the most notorious of heroin merchants for over 60 years, both in smuggling and wholesale, and even retail distribution of heroin. Over the years, he also dealt in large quantities of cocaine, barbiturates, and any other drug he deemed worth his effort. His activities included bootlegging, narcotics, counterfeiting, large-scale thefts, smuggling, extortion, strong-arming, murder, and any other racket available. DiPalermo's yellow jacket is 14 pages long and includes the following. In 1925, a state charge for selling narcotics. In 1928, possession of a weapon, a knife. In 1937, transporting alcohol. In 1938, operating an illegal still and transporting untaxed alcohol. In 1939, possession of untaxed liquor. In 1941, homicide by gunshot. In 1943, unregistered alcohol still and an OPA violation and sale of counterfeit gas coupons. In 1947, for Internal Revenue Law violations and alcohol tax and still parts. In 1950, transportation of counterfeit American Express traveler's checks and another for transportation of forged securities. In 1951, possession of counterfeit money. In 1956, he was picked up by the Customs Service and was questioned and released. And several in 1958, including heroin conspiracy, federal narcotics charge where he received 15 years and a $20,000 fine, accessory to a felony, aiding and abetting a fugitive, and a parole violation. In 1960, accessory to a misdemeanor. And in 1986, narcotics conspiracy and sale. Side note, Joe Beck most certainly had arrests between the late 1960s through the 1985 period, but we cannot pull them up. We're positive he was arrested for drugs again in the late 1970s for a Quaalude conspiracy with several other mafiosi, and of course then again in 1986 with his brother Charlie. In all the years he was active, he was never known to have engaged or have cared to engage in any legitimate business. He was strictly a hoodlum's hoodlum from the womb. DiPalermo's longtime base of operations was a candy store and social club along Prince and Elizabeth Streets. At 120 pounds and approximately 5 feet 5 inches tall, and with a face and physique of a classic nerd, DiPalermo could easily have been mistaken for a bookworm or drugstore clerk. But his appearance belied his true nature, that of an extremely vicious, cunning, and voracious heroin merchant, contract killer, and dedicated mafioso of the first order. He dressed as a top hoodlum, too, always completely color-coordinated and jeweled up. A common outfit might be an all-electric blue suit, tie, blue fedora, and blue snakeskin shoes with a diamond watch and ring with a huge blue sapphire stone, and driving a blue Cadillac. Another day he would be dressed in all canary yellow with a matching ring and stone, driving a canary yellow caddy. He was seen numerous times in the neighborhood dressed this exact way with a young chippy on his arm no less. Joe Beck was a character indeed. Joe Beck knew some of the most important mafiosi across New York City and the nation, and his associates included not only his brothers Tony, Petey, and Charlie, who were his partners, but also Vito Don Vitone Genovese, a close friend and confidant. Carmine Lilo Galante, Bonanno underboss, top international heroin trafficker, and close lifelong buddy. Vincenzo Vic Cotroni and Giuseppe Pep Cotroni, two of the most important Canadian-based international heroin smugglers and a top supply source for DiPalermo. Angelo Little Angie Tuminaro, a sometime partner of Beck's and top heroin smuggler of the French Connection infamy. John Big John Ormento, a top and four-time convicted international heroin trafficker. Anthony Tortorello, a soldier in his regime. Dominic Crazy Dom Truscello, a longtime soldier in his crew. Vincent Jimmy Jones Potenza, a soldier and possibly a crew member. Florio Flo Isabella, a Bonanno soldier and top heroin dealer and friend of DiPalermo. Other associates included Cosmo Carli DiPietro, a young Genovese protege and drug distributor who was later murdered. Giorgio Georgie Gillette Gigliotti, a prolific bootlegger and counterfeiter, brother-in-law of Joe Adonis and partner of DiPalermo. Ralph and Carmine Polizzano, young Genovese DiPalermo proteges and key heroin mixers who hid the drug stash. Angelo Little Mo Presenzano, an old Bonanno member and close associate. Alfred L. Walker Emberato, an old-time Fourth Ward hood, friend, and drug dealer. Anthony Mira, a young protege, drug dealer, and vicious killer. Ralph Rafi Cuomo, related by marriage and a highly trusted minion. John Johnny Brody Sorrentino, a nephew by marriage and trusted aide. Salvatore Sally Dogs Lombardi, a Genovese capo and Quaalude trafficking partner. DiPalermo and his partner and buddy Carmine Galante were suspected in the contract killing of anti-fascist editor and writer Carlo Tresca in New York City in 1944. It was a highly publicized murder and hit the front pages of every newspaper across the world. DiPalermo was the suspected getaway driver, while Lilo was the suspected actual shooter. They were never prosecuted for this killing. In 1958, DiPalermo, Genovese, Ormento, and many other top mob figures went on trial, were convicted, and sentenced to lengthy prison terms for the infamous heroin trial of that era. Joe Beck received 15 years, serving it in Atlanta Federal Penitentiary with Genovese Valachi and many others. This was the precursor to Joe Valachi turning informant after he slugged an innocent inmate with a steel pipe, killing him, thinking it was Joe DiPalermo he was attacking. Of course, this series of events was monumental in the history of the American organized crime underworld. The honored society would never be the same, and would never fully recover to its glory days of post-World War II era through the 1950s, arguably the greatest period of stability and financial strength ever enjoyed by Cosa Nostra in this country. Joseph Joe Beck DiPalermo was, without a doubt, the most conscientious of drug kingpins ever to walk the streets of New York City. He operated at the highest levels of the mob, both domestically and internationally, continuously over 6 decades. Only prison walls would occasionally interrupt his devilish heroin dealings. Even at 85 years of age, he was still at it, smuggling, mixing, diluting, packaging, and selling narcotics through his many minions all over New York City and beyond until his dying day. Joe Beck died at the age of 85 in 1992. New York's Little Italy and the Lucchese family would never be the same. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Mob Fireside Chat presented by Button Guys of the New York Mafia. And don't forget to comment and let us know your thoughts about Joe Beck or any of our other mob tales. You can also visit thenewyorkmafia.com and indulge yourself in many more tales of the underworld. Until next time.